What up, Star Wars type people, my name is Eon with the Guild Extreme on Hex Droid EU PvP, and today I will be walking you through the Rage spec of a level 50 Marauder. Rage is the shared spec of the Sith warrior, meaning that both Marauder and Juggernaut can spec into it. It is also the focused counterpart of the Jedi Knight. Rage is all about hindering your opponents with force-based attacks, and then bursting them down with smash and force screen. However, basic melee attacks should not be overlooked, as you have a lot of armor penetration with this build. The whole spec is based around a few key talents that I'll get into in just a moment. So I'll see you in game and I'll walk you through my skill choices and give you my reasoning behind them. Alright, welcome back in game. I'm just going to try and quickly go over my talents. I don't want to take too long here because I want to add some gameplay on the end and I'll talk you through that. But I'm just going to quickly go over the talents, give you my thought process behind them and why I have spec the way I have. So I spec 2831 into the Rage tree, obviously. The first tier of talents I feel fairly normal for this build. The extra immobilize on charge, not too important. It's not really going to make or break anything, really. Second tier I skip payback, which a few PvPers might question, but personally it's not a massive heal. I feel like it's more or less a waste of two talents. It doesn't really give you any more damage. Your survivability will not be increased much by it. There might be some occasions where it will save you, but in general it's a waste in my opinion. It's something you want to avoid. I feel like it's fairly, I don't want to say newbie, but I feel like it is fairly newbie. It's just, yeah, it's not worth it. I'd much rather put my points into the brutality. Like as I said before, your melee attacks are very important with this spec. Even so, you don't want to be overlooking them, so having the extra 15% crit on Vicious Slash is huge. You definitely want to be taking that. The other two talents, fairly normal, reduces the cooldown and reduces the cost of Force Scream, which is nice because it's a fairly rage hungry ability. So in the third tier I take everything, pretty normal I feel like. The Strangulate reduces pushback while channeling Force Choke is important because you don't want to lose any ticks on it, since from a full channel you can clip it at the end, but you want to get every tick from it, since without every tick you will not have a 4 stack of the most important ability in the game, or for this spec even, the Shockwave. Each tick of Force Choke and Force Crush grants you Shockwave, increasing the damage of your next smash by 25%. And it stacks up to 4 times. That's 100% extra damage on Force Smash, coupled with increases the critical strike chance of all force attacks by 30%, on top of any base surge you have, and then on top of the trinket if you decide to use it, which I do. I do use the crit surge trinket for PvP. I feel like surge outweighs power up to a certain breakpoint, which I think is around 90 to 100%. So I would definitely recommend using the crit surge trinket for PvP. And Obliterate, standard, you definitely want to be taking it. It's not my favourite ability in the game purely because it feels slightly lackluster. It's more or less another melee damaging ability. It does quite a lot of damage, so it's fairly nice for that, but you kind of want it to be like a charge or something, which it doesn't really fill any role because the range is too pathetic to be a charge, coupled with the fact that it doesn't snare and you kind of land a mile behind someone if they're running away from you. It's kind of annoying if someone's running. Yeah, you will land a fair distance behind, which you do get the 40% movement speed up here, so you will catch up to them, but it still feels rather silly. It's a bit of a strange ability. I tend to use it more of just to get the 100% crit for the next for the next smash. Sorry, I tend to just use it for that, or for extra damage in melee. You don't really want to be saving it for as a charge, because it doesn't really work as a charge. It is nice for if you get knocked back. If you press it quick enough, you'll jump back on to the person who knocks you back instantly, which you should see in a bit. This one, Unbreakable Rage, is fairly standard. I think most people will take it, but I'll quickly give the reasons why you should take it. For any good player that's aware of what's going on, they will see you casting Ravage, especially in a 1v1. A 1v1 they're going to see you casting Ravage, and a good player is going to do one of two things. They're either going to try and run away, or they're going to interrupt you. And generally speaking, I think most ranged people, sorcerers, sage, mercenaries, they're likely to just try and move away rather than interrupting you. Even though they do have an interrupt, but they're more likely to sprint away. So you're probably only going to get the first tick off, which is fine. It still does nice damage and it doesn't cost any rage. So it's a good thing to use anyway. I tend to use it as a finisher. It's quick, easy burst just from the first tick. But if you've got a melee on you, their first instinct will be to interrupt. They see a cast bar and they want to interrupt it. Everyone's the same. I'm the same. If I see something casted, you're going to want to try and interrupt it. But unfortunately for them, they won't. And then by that point, it's going to be almost too late to get away. So you will be able to get your final tick off and smack them in the face for quite a lot of damage. And then in the next tier, I've already gone over the interceptor and the Shi-Cho mastery. This is what I was talking about. You get 20% armor pen, standard, basic, just armor pen. There you go, 20% for you. So that helps increase your basic melee, physical abilities. Then gravity reduces the cost of all rage, reduces the rage cost of all movement slowing effects by 1. This is important because it reduces the cost of Force Crush. Force Crush is considered slow, so it does reduce the rage cost down to 3, which is nice for after Force Charge. So you get 3 rage exactly. So if you've got Force Choke on cooldown, or you don't feel like it's a good idea to use Force Choke, then it's nice because you can instantly put up Force Crush and then start building rage from Battering Assault or whatever. Then the last one in this tree is Undying, which further damage reduction and also reduces the cooldown on Undying Rage by 30 seconds, which is fairly nice because coupled with the set bonus on the PvP gear, it bumps the cooldown all the way down to 45 seconds, which is somewhat useful. It's not the most useful thing in the world, since generally if you're using Undying Rage you're close to dead, and if you're not queuing with a healer, or if you don't have a med pack, you'll probably die afterwards, even though you should be able to kill someone, unless you're lucky enough to get away, or it's a true 1v1 and no one else is around and you survive. But yeah, normally you'll die afterwards, and then by the time you need it again, it's probably been about a minute 30, so it'll be up again. But even so, definitely has its uses, so I would suggest taking the talent. If you don't take that one, I would suggest taking the Relentless Fury. It's nice. I tend to not use sprint with this spec. Berserk is a lot better, purely because of the amount of damage you can pump out when you put it up, since it reduces the rage cost of Vicious Slash down to 0. It won't cost anything, and it also strikes a nearby enemy, so you're basically cleaving with Vicious Slash, which, yeah, on top of your crit chance and your armor pen, you're going to be hitting fairly hard. And then into Carnage, I take the defensive forms. I like to take this with more or less every build, especially with Rage, because your Fury generation is pretty dire. Helps out a lot. You get some further damage reduction as well, so I think you get in total about 7% reduction just from your spec, which is nothing to be sniffed at. Take the Dual Wield Mastery, which, as I've said a few times, your basic attacks don't want to be overlooked, and this will definitely help out with your melee damage. I take Defensive Roll because I feel like the AoE abilities in this game do far too much damage, and, well, partly because abilities like Smash, for example, it is an AoE, so the 30% will reduce the damage from Smash, which is nice, and I think most people, most classes have this kind of talent, which does somewhat reduce the effectiveness of Rage. You'll struggle to crit over about 6k with Rage. Perhaps if you've got all the buffs, pop your trinkets, you might get a 6k in the 50 bracket, but it's yeah, you have to pop everything to get over 50, or someone has to be severely undergeared. And I put the 1 point into accuracy, as I said in my previous video. Accuracy is important. I don't quite have 100% with this build. I'm close enough. But unfortunately don't have any more points to spare. And then finally, in Annihilation, I take the reduce cooldown on Smash and reduces the rage cost on Smash and Sweeping Slash, which is very useful. I do skip over the enrage slash purely because I don't tend to spam vicious slash too much unless berserk is up. It's kind of more of a filler for me. So it's not. I mean, that talent's definitely nice. If you want to take it, then I would suggest dropping the points here. Although I would suggest not dropping them and not taking it at all. But I mean, that's personal preference really. If you feel like you're not dying and you don't need the accuracy, then yep, by all means drop them and take these. This will definitely help with your damage. Yeah, that more or less does it for my skills. So what I'm gonna do now, I'm gonna get some footage from a war zone, and I will talk you through things that you need to look out for, especially if you're not playing a Marauder yourself. There's certain buffs that you want to keep your eye on when you're facing a rage spec Marauder. There's things you want to watch out for, and even if you're playing a Marauder or Juggernaut yourself, then you need to keep an eye on your buffs. So I'm gonna try and walk you through a few things that I look out for and do in battlegrounds or war zones even. Sorry. So I'll see you there. Alright, so I got some footage from a 50 bracket warzone. It's all 50s in this one that I did earlier on. At the start here I tend to jump down as rage, go pick up the expertise buff, because you want to do as much damage as possible and it's there to be had, so you don't really lose much time from picking up, and you see some of the enemy run this way anyway, so I get the chance to pick them off. I'm just going to zoom in quickly here to show you the buff. You see that little stacking buff right there? That's the one you want to be watching out for, especially if you're not playing the Juggernaut yourself. That is the talent that increases the critical strike damage on your next smash by 100%. So you can bet your money that as soon as that hits for the Juggernaut or Marauder is going to be hitting their smash button. So it's fairly easy to outplay people. I feel when they're playing rage, you can watch that stack up and then either sidestep or use some form of immunity or cooldown when you see it hit for. I've done it quite often as Annihilation with Force Camouflage. You just camo and they smash into your camo and you take no damage. So it's like their main burst gone, and then from there it's more or less a cakewalk taking them down. But that's the main thing that you definitely want to be watching out for. You need to keep your eye on your buff, that's for sure. And then the other buff, which is down at the moment, it's the orange one. That is the 100% crit after Force Charge and Obliterate. So that's something that you want to try and have up before you use your smash as well. Just to make sure that you crit. It's always better to crit. As far as this game, I have a 1v2 quite soon, which I don't play to the best of my ability, that's for sure. I miss some cooldowns and just generally don't play too smart. Yeah, they definitely could have gone better, but I can't say I haven't had the most practice with rage, so I'm just kind of having a little brain fart, I guess, and just not using the cooldowns properly. And that's coming up in a second, because I think I charge up here to help out, and then either the guy dies or he just ditches. I think he just ditches. So then I'm left up here 1v3. I think one of the other person leaves when I stealth. They're just like, screw this, and leave. So I kill this guy, DPS him down fairly easily. You see there, Obliterate critting for 1.5k, which is a fair amount of damage. You can see I haven't used my Cloak of Pain or Saber Ward, which it's really bad. There's no excuse for me not using it. You see here what I was talking about with the Undaring Rage. I pop it and I manage to get him down just before I die, even though I do die. It's possible I could have survived and maybe gone away if I'd have used my cooldowns properly, but it's not a big deal really. But this footage is about to wrap up. The video's hitting about 15 minutes, so I don't want to go too much longer. I hope you found it somewhat useful, got some insight into the spec, and you'll definitely know what to look out for now. But that's more or less that. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.